Ladies and gentlemen, every time you meet someone new, there's one question that should be at the forefront of your mind. Do they add value to my life? Not in a transactional way, not in a what can they do for me kind of mindset, but in the most fundamental sense, does their presence, their energy, their way of being elevate my life in some way? Too often, when we meet someone, we get caught up in the wrong questions. We wonder if they like us. We analyze whether we said the right thing, made the right impression, or came across as attractive enough. But the truth is, none of that matters if the person you're engaging with doesn't actually bring something meaningful to your life. Think about the times you've walked away from a conversation feeling drained. Maybe it was someone who only talked about themselves, never asking a single question about you. Maybe it was someone who subtly put you down, making you second guess your worth. Or maybe it was just someone who, while perfectly fine on the surface, didn't spark anything inside you. No excitement, no inspiration, no feeling of being more alive than you were before the conversation started. That's not the kind of energy you need to invite into your life. Life is too short to fill your time with people who don't add something positive, who don't challenge you in the best ways, who don't make you feel like a more energized, more confident version of yourself. So when you meet someone, shift your focus. Instead of thinking about how to impress them, start noticing how they make you feel. Do you leave that conversation feeling lighter, more excited, more curious? Do they make you think in new ways? Do they inspire you to grow? Because those are the people you want around you, the ones who leave you feeling expanded instead of depleted. This isn't just about romance. It applies to friendships, business relationships, casual encounters, every person you allow into your orbit. The people you surround yourself with shape your life more than you realize. If you constantly engage with people who gossip, complain, or drain your energy, it affects your mindset, your motivation, your ability to show up as your best self. On the other hand, when you're around people who challenge you, uplift you, and support you, everything in your life starts to improve. Your confidence grows, your standards rise, your world expands. Now, here's the tricky part. Sometimes we meet people who seem exciting, charming, or even a little intoxicating, but when we really examine the dynamic, we realize they're not actually adding value, they're just creating a temporary high. Maybe it's the thrill of attention, the rush of validation, or the appeal of their charisma. But if you strip all that away, do they actually make your life better, or are they just a distraction? It's easy to mistake excitement for value, but value runs deeper. It's not just about how fun or interesting someone is in the moment. It's about whether they contribute to your growth, your peace, your sense of purpose in the long run. That's why self-awareness is key. You have to know what matters to you, what you need in your life, what kind of energy fuels you versus drains you. If you're not clear on that, you'll let just anyone in, and before you know it, you'll be wondering why you feel exhausted, uninspired, or stuck. But when you're intentional about who you give your time and energy to, everything changes. You stop chasing approval from the wrong people. You stop wasting time on connections that don't serve you. And you start attracting relationships, whether romantic, professional, or platonic, that truly enhance your life. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing they have to accept whoever comes into their life. But you have more control than you think. You get to choose who you engage with, who you invest in, who you allow to influence you. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Some people are meant to stay on the periphery, while others shouldn't be in your space at all. It's not about being harsh or dismissive. It's about protecting your energy and ensuring that the people around you actually contribute to the kind of life you want to build. So next time you meet someone new, resist the urge to seek their validation. Instead, ask yourself, do they add value to my life? Do I feel more alive, more at ease, more motivated after spending time with them? Do they challenge me in a way that makes me grow? If the answer is no, then maybe it's time to stop worrying about whether they like you and start asking whether they even deserve a place in your world. Every time you meet someone new, there's a question you need to ask yourself, and it's one that most people completely overlook. How do I feel around them? Most of us are so focused on making a good impression that we forget to check in with ourselves. We're worried about being funny enough, interesting enough, attractive enough, but we don't stop to notice how we actually feel in their presence. And that's where we go wrong, because the way you feel around someone tells you everything you need to know about whether they belong in your life. It's easy to get caught up in surface level attraction. Maybe they have the kind of confidence that's magnetic, or they say all the right things. Maybe they make you laugh, or they have a way of making you feel special. And in the excitement of that, it's tempting to ignore the subtle signals your body is giving you. But here's what you need to pay attention to. When you're with them, do you feel at ease? Or do you feel like you're performing? Do you feel lighter, more like yourself? Or do you find yourself second-guessing everything you say? That feeling you get in your gut, that's not random. That's information. That's your subconscious telling you whether this person is a good fit for your life. Think about the last time you met someone and afterward you just felt drained. Maybe you couldn't even put your finger on why. They didn't say anything overtly bad, but something about the interaction left you feeling small or insecure or just exhausted. That's a sign, because the right people don't drain you, they energize you. And let's be clear, this isn't about whether someone is good or bad. It's not about judging people, it's about alignment. Some people will naturally bring out the best in you. You'll feel sharper, funnier, more alive in their presence. Others, even if they seem great on paper, might make you feel like you have to prove something, like you're not quite enough. And that's not a dynamic you want in your life. So the next time you meet someone new, stop for a moment. Check in with yourself. How do I feel around them? Do I feel respected? Do I feel heard? Do I feel comfortable, or do I feel like I need to impress them? Because if someone makes you feel like you're constantly auditioning for their approval, that's not a connection, it's a performance. And that's exhausting. This is especially important when it comes to dating. Attraction can cloud judgment. It can make you ignore feelings of unease because you're too busy trying to keep the connection alive. But the best relationships, the ones that truly last, are the ones where you feel like you can exhale, where you don't have to think so hard about every move you make, where you don't feel anxious after texting them, wondering if you said the right thing. You shouldn't have to decode someone's behavior to know where you stand. If they're right for you, you'll feel safe, secure, and valued just by being yourself. And this isn't just about romantic relationships, it's about friendships too. We all have people in our lives who, after spending time with them, make us feel inspired, motivated, or just really good. And then there are the ones who leave us questioning ourselves, the ones who subtly put us down, who make everything about them, who never really listen. Pay attention to that, because the way you feel around someone will always reveal more than their words ever will. The truth is, you don't have to work that hard to earn a place in the right person's life. You don't have to convince them of your worth. You don't have to shrink yourself to fit into their world. The right people will see you, they'll appreciate you, and most importantly, they'll make you feel at home with yourself. And that feeling, that's everything. When you meet someone new, it's easy to get caught up in how they look, what they do, or whether they seem charming or confident, but none of that truly matters if there's no genuine interest. So instead of wondering if you're making a good impression, shift the focus. Ask yourself, are they truly interested in me? Not just in the way someone nods along politely, but in the way that shows real curiosity, depth, and care. We've all been in conversations where someone is just waiting for their turn to speak. They throw in a casual, "That's interesting," or "Nice," without actually engaging with what you're saying. You can feel it. Their eyes wander, their responses are surface level, and there's no real follow-up to anything you've shared. That's not interest. That's social autopilot. And it's a sign that the connection is either one-sided or simply not meaningful. True interest, on the other hand, feels different. It's when someone leans in, not just physically, but emotionally. They ask questions that go beyond the surface. They don't just hear your words, they listen. When you talk about something that excites you, they match your energy. Maybe not because they share the same passion, but because they see it matters to you. That's engagement. That's connection. And here's the truth most people ignore. If someone isn't showing genuine interest in you, why should you invest deeply in them? Too often, we try to win people over. We try to be more entertaining, more intriguing, more appealing, as if their lack of engagement is somehow a challenge we need to overcome. But real connections aren't about proving your worth. They're about mutual appreciation. If you have to constantly fight for someone's attention, that's a red flag, not a challenge. Think about the people in your life who make you feel truly seen. The ones who ask you questions that make you think. The ones who remember the little details you mention in passing. That's the kind of interest that matters, because it shows effort, it shows care, and it shows that they value who you are beyond the surface. Now, you might be wondering, what if they're just shy? What if they do care, but don't know how to express it? And yes, there are people who struggle with communication, but even in silence, there's a difference between disinterest and attentiveness. Someone who cares but is quiet will still show it in their actions. They'll remember things you said. They'll follow up. They'll create moments where they engage, even if it's subtle. Someone who doesn't care won't make that effort, no matter how outgoing or charismatic they are. This is why it's so important to pay attention not just to what someone says, but how they make you feel. Do you feel like they are present in the conversation? Do you feel like they are invested in getting to know you? Or does it feel like you could be anyone standing in front of them, filling space in their day? Many people waste years chasing connections where the effort is unbalanced. They invest in people who give them crumbs of attention, thinking that one day it will turn into a full meal. But connection isn't something you force. It's something that happens naturally when both people are equally engaged. So the next time you meet someone new, instead of asking, "Do they like me?" ask, "Are they genuinely interested in me?" The answer to that question will tell you everything you need to know. But because the people who truly belong in your life won't need to be convinced to care, they just will. Physical attraction might be what initially draws us to someone, but it's not what keeps us connected in a meaningful way. We often get so caught up in chemistry that we forget to ask ourselves the real questions, the ones that determine whether this person truly fits into the life we're trying to build. And one of the most important things to consider is whether our values align, not our hobbies, not our favorite TV shows, not even our personalities, our values. When you meet someone new, it's easy to get swept up in the excitement of discovery. You find yourself laughing at the same jokes, vibing to the same music, or sharing a passion for travel. And while all of these things are great, they don't necessarily mean you're truly compatible. Compatibility isn't about having everything in common. It's about seeing the world in a way that aligns with what truly matters to you. What drives you at your core? What do you stand for? What do you believe in when no one is watching? These are the questions that shape the depth of any relationship. So often, people ignore misalignments in values because they're infatuated. They convince themselves that love or attraction is enough to bridge the gap. But here's the reality. Misaligned values will always surface. They show up in the big decisions, how you handle conflict, how you raise children, how you prioritize your ambitions. They appear in the small moments, how you treat a stranger, how you define loyalty, how you respond when things don't go your way. And when these differences come up, if your core beliefs don't match, no amount of initial attraction will keep things from falling apart. It's tempting to ignore the red flags when you feel a strong pull towards someone. Maybe they make you laugh. Maybe they have an undeniable charm. Maybe the chemistry is electric. But if they don't share the same fundamental values, if they don't respect the things you hold dear, you'll find yourself constantly compromising in ways that leave you feeling disconnected from yourself. A strong relationship isn't about one person bending to fit the other. It's about two people walking in the same direction with a shared sense of purpose. Think about your life as a path. Every decision you make, every belief you hold, every goal you set is a step forward on that path. Now imagine meeting someone who's walking in a completely different direction. It doesn't matter how much you enjoy their company or how much fun you have together. If your destinations aren't aligned, you'll eventually find yourselves pulling away from each other. And the further you go, the harder it becomes to force that connection to work. You can love someone and still not be right for them. You can feel deeply connected, but still realize that your long-term visions don't match. The mistake people make is believing that love alone will fix these misalignments. It won't. Love isn't about fixing someone or hoping they'll change. It's about choosing someone who already fits into the life you want to create. And that choice starts the moment you meet them. It starts by asking, do our values align? When you meet someone new, look beyond the surface. Pay attention to the things they prioritize. How do they treat people when there's nothing to gain? How do they handle challenges? Do they take responsibility for their actions, or do they shift blame? Do they show kindness and empathy, or are they quick to judge and criticize? These small behaviors reveal so much more than words ever could. People can say all the right things, but their values are reflected in how they move through life. And if those values don't align with yours, the connection you feel in the beginning will eventually turn into conflict and resentment. This doesn't mean that every value has to match perfectly. No two people are identical, and differences can actually strengthen a relationship if there's a foundation of respect. But the key is in the non-negotiables, the things that, if compromised, would make you feel like you're betraying yourself. Maybe it's integrity, maybe it's ambition, maybe it's family or honesty or generosity. Whatever it is, you need to be clear on what truly matters to you, because if you're not, it becomes easy to make excuses for why someone might be right for you, even when they're not. So often, people waste years in relationships that were never right for them in the first place because they ignored the signs from the start. They hoped the other person would change. They convinced themselves that things would work out. But here's the truth. When values don't align, you're not in a relationship. You're in a negotiation. And in a negotiation, someone always loses. A real partnership isn't about convincing someone to see the world the way you do. It's about finding someone who already does. The right person won't force you to abandon what matters to you. They won't make you question your core beliefs or feel like you have to shrink yourself to make things work. The right person will reinforce your values. They'll push you to grow, not away from yourself, but toward the person you're meant to become. And that's why this question, do our values align, is one of the most important things you can ask yourself when you meet someone new. Because the truth is, attraction is easy, connection is exciting, but real compatibility, that's what makes a relationship last. The people we surround ourselves with have a profound impact on who we become. Every time you meet someone new, there's one question that will tell you more about your future with them than anything else. Do they inspire me to be better? This question isn't about whether they impress you with their achievements or charm you with their words. It's about how their presence affects your growth, your mindset, and your action. When you walk away from an interaction with them, do you feel more motivated, more capable, more aligned with the person you want to be? Think about the moments in your life when you felt the most alive, the most determined, the most on fire. Who was around you? The people who inspire us don't necessarily have to be the most successful or the most knowledgeable, but they do something that shifts our perspective. They challenge us to think bigger. They show us what's possible. They remind us of our worth, not just with compliments, but with the way they engage with us, the way they hold us to a higher standard. A powerful connection is not one where you feel comfortable staying exactly where you are. It's one where you feel encouraged to take the next step. If someone enters your life and you find yourself making excuses for why you can't go after your goals, why you should settle, why your dreams are unrealistic, pause. That's not inspiration, that's limitation. The right people don't validate your fears. They help you rise above them. They see potential in you even when you don't see it in yourself. They push you to act on that potential. Sometimes inspiration comes in the form of admiration. You meet someone whose discipline, drive, or kindness is so magnetic that it forces you to reflect on how you can elevate your own life. Other times it comes in the form of accountability. A true friend, a meaningful relationship, isn't just about making you feel good in the moment. It's about making sure you don't betray the person you're capable of becoming. When you're about to give up, do they remind you of your strength? When you're slipping into bad habits, do they call you out with love? When you share your ambitions, do they encourage you to go after them with everything you have? It's easy to mistake comfort for connection. There are people who will tell you what you want to hear, who will let you stay in the same place because it serves them, or because they don't want to lose the version of you they're used to. But the ones who truly belong in your life will challenge you. They will inspire you to stop waiting for the right moment and start becoming the person you've always wanted to be. They will remind you that playing small doesn't serve you, and it certainly doesn't serve the world. Look at your current relationships. Who are the people who make you feel more capable, more driven, more aligned with the best version of yourself? And when you meet someone new, ask yourself, is this someone who will elevate my life, or is this someone who will keep me stagnant? Because at the end of the day, the people you surround yourself with shape your future. Make sure they're shaping it for the better. If you find yourself adjusting your personality, filtering your words, or second-guessing your actions just to fit in with someone new, take a step back and ask yourself, why? The strongest connections are built on authenticity, not performance. When you meet someone, the real test isn't whether they like you, it's whether you can be fully yourself around them. That's what determines whether they deserve a place in your life. So often people go into new interactions trying to impress. They think, how can I be the most attractive, the most interesting, the most charming version of myself? And while there's nothing wrong with putting your best foot forward, the problem comes when you start molding yourself into what you think the other person wants. That's when you lose sight of who you really are. You might find temporary validation, but it comes at the cost of long-term fulfillment. Because if you build a connection based on an edited version of yourself, you're not really being chosen. You're just playing a role that someone else approves of. What's even more dangerous is that this habit can become automatic. You meet someone, and before you even realize it, you start adjusting. Maybe you laugh at jokes that don't really land for you. Maybe you nod along to opinions that don't truly align with yours. Or maybe you downplay parts of your personality that feel too bold, too quiet, too intense, too different. But if you constantly tweak yourself to match other people's expectations, how will you ever know who actually values the real you? Think about the people in your life who make you feel truly comfortable. The ones who don't make you question whether you're saying the right thing, whether you're being too much or too little, whether you need to censor your thoughts. With them, you don't perform, you just exist. And because of that, you feel free, you feel lighter, you feel like you can breathe. That's the kind of energy you should be looking for in new connections. Not just whether they are interesting, successful, or attractive, but whether being around them makes you feel safe enough to be yourself. It's not always easy. There's a fear that if you show who you really are, you might get rejected. And rejection hurts. But what hurts even more is spending time with people who don't truly see you because you never let them. The goal is never to be liked by everyone. The goal is to find the people who love you for exactly who you are. And that's impossible if you're hiding. When you meet someone new, pay attention to the moments when you feel yourself holding back. Are you making yourself smaller so they feel bigger? Are you pretending to be less passionate about something you care deeply about? Are you toning down your humor, your intelligence, your ambition because you're worried it might be too much? Those are the moments to check in with yourself. Because if you feel the need to shrink to make space for someone else, that's not the right connection for you. You also have to recognize the difference between adapting and abandoning yourself. We all adjust to different social situations. There's nothing wrong with that. You're going to speak differently in a job interview than you do with your best friend. That's normal. But when you start losing pieces of yourself in an effort to gain approval, that's when you have a problem. The people who belong in your life won't require you to lose yourself to be in theirs. So how do you break the habit of filtering yourself? It starts with one small but powerful shift. Instead of focusing on whether someone likes you, focus on how you feel when you're with them. Do you feel excited? Do you feel energized? Do you feel at ease? Or do you feel tense, on edge, hyper aware of how you're coming across? That feeling is your answer, because the right people, the ones who truly matter, will make you feel more like yourself, not less. When you stop chasing approval, you start attracting the right people, the ones who genuinely connect with your energy, the ones who appreciate your quirks instead of tolerating them, the ones who see your passion, your depth, your individuality, and embrace it. And when you find people like that, your relationships stop being exhausting performances and start being places of true connection. So, the next time you meet someone new, don't just wonder if they like you. Ask yourself, am I being my authentic self right now? And if the answer is no, then the real question is, why am I trying to impress someone who isn't even seeing the real me? Because the truth is, the people who are meant to be in your life will always recognize you exactly as you are.